Namaskar. I am Assistant Professor Kritika Dev from LG School of Law. And today we'll be dealing with another very important and interesting topic of Indian Penal Code, that is offences relating to marriage. Now, yes, of course, there's not just one offense which is relating to marriage. There are a number of offenses. And today we are going to see all those offenses in detail. What are the kinds of it and what are the elements of those offenses will get cleared with the help of the examples and, of course, the sections and the ingredients. Let's move on to it. So here, as you can see on your screens, as I said, it does not just have one offense, right? It has number of offenses. Now, what are these offenses? Let's get a gist from this very graph that I've made here. The first kind that we are going to see will be a kind of a mock marriage. Now, mock is something which looks like something but does not exist in reality. So that we will see under section 493 and 496. Mocking someone, right? So mock marriages, which does not exist in reality, or what happens thereafter, we'll see with the help of the sections. Now, bigamy. Now, as I have said the term bigamy, I guess you must have heard something about bigamy. Must not be a new term for me, for you. Sorry. So when it comes to bigamy, we'll deal with section 494 for this very thing. Adultery. Now, adultery in bracket, as you can see, was an offense before 2019. So what happened thereafter? That also we'll see. And the last one is criminal elopement. That we will deal under section 498 of Indian Penal Code. Now let's quickly see each and every section in detail. Okay, here we are. Section 493 of Indian Penal Code. Now what does that section says? We'll read with the help of the ingredients here. Okay, now the ingredient says man deceitfully induces a woman to have sexual intercourse with him. Secondly, I'll read it together so that you can get a clear idea. In a belief that she's lawfully married to him, right? So when we talk about this very section, it has two very important things. The first one is the man deceitfully induces a woman to have a sexual intercourse. Now, why would that woman have a sexual intercourse? The reason is given just below. In a belief that she is lawfully married to him, right? So when a man actually behaves in such a manner that the woman starts feeling that she is lawfully married and then induces her to have the sexual intercourse in a belief, like the woman is under a belief that she is a married woman, she has lawfully married to that man. Now she can actually have the sexual intercourse, because once two people are married and if she consented for the same and when they're having a sexual intercourse, that is fine. But here she is under a belief of a lawful marriage, whereas they did not get lawfully married, and then thereafter that man actually induces the woman to have a sexual intercourse, right? So when these two ingredients are being fulfilled, then it leads to section, or it leads to an offense under section 493. Now this very offense can be committed by a man who is not married or a man who is married. Both the man will be covered under this section. Whether the man is married or not is no criteria here under this section. So it can be committed by both the people, as in both the man, whether he is married or not. Okay, so with this, I hope this is very simple and you must have got a clear idea. Now let's move on to section 496. Now let me read the section to you. The heading says marriage ceremony fraudulently gone through without lawful marriage. Whoever dishonestly or with a fraudulent intention goes through the ceremony of being married, knowing that he is not thereby lawfully married, shall be punished with an imprisonment of either description, which may extend to 7 years, and shall also be liable to fine. Now, before going to the punishment, we need to understand what this section says. So, this section simply says that the intention, firstly, it could be dishonest or fraudulent. So a person who goes through a ceremony, right, and that person knows, when that person is going through the ceremony of marriage, now that person knows when he was going through that ceremony, that he's not legally getting married. That is not a marriage ceremony. But he does so with a fraudulent intention or a dishonest intention, right? That the other person should believe that they are lawfully married. But he knows that they are not lawfully married. Now, here let's take an example. For say, in different states, the marriage ceremonies are very different. They go through different kinds of ceremonies. Now here the man just goes in a jungle and says, you know, in my particular place, this is how a girl and a guy gets married, and he just sits or does something with a plant or anything. You can just take any example, and he had a fraudulent intention, and he was going through that very ceremony by knowing that they are not, by this ceremony, they will not be legally wedded couple, but he does so with a fraudulent or dishonest intention. Now that may lead to any other thing. So when we read this section 496, let's go to the previous section. There you might be finding these two things very similar. But there it was very clear that he was doing so in order to have the sexual intercourse with the female, right? To have the sexual intercourse with the female. But here, the first thing, this offense can be committed by a male or a female, because the term man is not written. And when you can see he here, I guess by now you must have got the clear idea that under IPC, he is used for both she or he, both. But when specifically it has been mentioned that committed by a man, as it was mentioned in section 493, then it was committed by a man only. But here, as nothing is been mentioned and whoever is mentioned, then this offense can be committed by a female or a male, any of them. So any of them, by knowing that they are not going through that ceremony, by having a fraudulent intention or dishonest intention against the other partner, then this offense comes into play. Is that clear? I hope that idea is clear. 493, only a man can commit. Here both male and female can commit. So there it is committed in order to have the sexual intercourse. It is committed here under 496 with a dishonest or fraudulent intention. That intention may lead to anything, right? So here we are clear with 493 and 496 of Indian Penal Code. Now, as I said, bigamy is a term you must have heard before. So it is very simple to understand. We don't need much explanation to it. Section 494 of Indian Penal Code 1860 says, marrying again during lifetime of husband or wife. So here again, it applies to both, right? When it comes to marrying again, when your wife or husband, any of your spouse is alive, you might be of any gender, the other gender is alive, to whom you are legally married, and again you marry the other person during the lifetime of your spouse, right? Then you commit bigamy. So bigamy again can be committed by a man or a woman when his or her wife or husband is alive and the person marries to the other person during the lifetime of his or her spouse. So many his, her, and this, that, but it is very simple to understand that both male and female can commit this offense. Supposingly, quickly, let me give you one example. If a female is there, if her husband is alive and she marries another male, right, then she commits bigamy. If a male is there, his wife is alive and they're legally, of course, married, and he marries to another female, then he commits bigamy. Is that clear? Okay. Let's move on to the next section, that is 497. Now, can you see this very kind of a graph where I've written adultery, unconstitutional, Joseph Stein versus Union of India. Now, what does that say? If you remember that earlier, the first page where it was written, it was an offense earlier. So yes, it was an adultery was an offense earlier, but by this case, Joseph Shine versus Union of India in 2019, it was declared unconstitutional. In adultery, of course, adultery used to be considered as an offense against the husband, right? When his wife is being taken away from him. So it used to be considered as an offense against the husband, but it was declared unconstitutional under this very case, and now adultery is no more an offense, though it still isn't. It could be a ground for divorce, but now it is not a punishable offense. Is that clear? Okay. So our last offense here is section 498 of Indian Penal Code. Now what does this section says? Let's have a look quickly. Whoever takes or entices any women. Now here you can see it is an offense against women because specifically women is written here. So whoever takes or entices away any women who is and whom he knows or has reason to believe to be the wife of any other man, from that man or from any person having the care of her on behalf of that man, with intent that she may have illicit intercourse with any person, or conceals or detains with that intent any such women, shall be punished with imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 2 years, or with fine, or with both. So here the punishment is very clear. Now, what this section is trying to say, firstly, the objectives of this very section is, it is an offense again against the male. As you can say here, of course, it is taking away any women. Forceful element is not being written here, right? So here, let's understand this very section with the help of the example. A married man is there to B, the wife, A and B, right? Husband and wife. Now, as I said, though the taking away of a female is there, but this section is considered, or this offense is considered as an offense against male, that the female is being taken away from the custody of the male, right? Or anybody, right? Or on who's on anybody who's taking care of the woman on the behalf of the husband. Like it could be anybody, it could be any in-law, the brother-in-law, the father-in-law, anybody. Now, if here, even now, the point to be understood here is that even here, if B concerns for the same, right? B is willing to go with C, and C says later on when they are caught that, it was B who was not sexually satisfied with A, right? That was the reason she came with us to satisfy her sexual needs. That will not be an plea here because the concern of the women here is immaterial, right? So illicit sexual intercourse is a thing here. Intercourse is an element here. So if she has that, then it will be considered as an offense against the male, and that person will be booked under this very section. So here you can see the element of force is in there, that female is taken forcefully or something like that, and the concern here of the women is considered as immaterial, and it will be considered as an offense against the husband. So the person will be, of course, booked under this very section. So with this, I guess all the concepts relating to offenses relating to marriage is clear, and we have seen it in detail. So I guess everything is clear till now. So I rest this lecture here. And as I always say, keep studying, keep revising, keep learning, and take good care of yourself. Thank you so much.